Good morning, YouTube. I hope you guys had a wonderful New Year's Eve. I sure did. I mean, the martinis were awesome. But as everyone is getting into their New Year's resolution for 2020, I've been really thinking about what my New Year's resolution is going to be, and which has nothing to do with insurance sales and business. And I've really been meditating on this. And when I look at the past 10 years and I count my victories and I also count my losses, I gotta say that I've had some losses that were pretty damaging, that hurt, that stung. And everybody always talks about letting go of the past and just forgetting about it. And hey, if you are that person that can easily let go of things, more power to you. But my New Year's resolution is to do just that, to just let go. And for me, there's one situation that for 12 years has really eaten up at me. Yeah, and I'm going to share this with you guys. I always tell people, hey, if you go out and party and you're going to drink, do not drive. Because a lot of people drink and they're drinking just enough so they're under the radar on what's permitted, right? But my advice has been, do not drink and drive, period. And I'm going to share with you guys a little story that's embarrassing, but it happened. So in 2008, the New Year's of 2008, as we were coming from 2007 to 2008, I was living in Central California. And at the time, I was a field agent. And my mom calls me up and says, hey, mijo, why don't you guys come up north? We're going to have a family gathering. A lot of your friends are going to be there. A lot of my childhood friends are going to be there. And people from church, they're all going to be there. So I said, hey, you know what? I haven't seen a lot of my friends in a while. Let's do it. So I jump in my Hummer and I head north. Well, when I got to this party, it was just that, a bunch of old friends, childhood friends. And there was this one friend of mine that we've been friends since we were in junior high. We went to church together. I mean, we were like this. And I hadn't seen him in a few years, right? So he was there. And I said, hey, man, why don't we, let's go down to the Rock and have some drinks. It's a local bar in Kelseyville, here in Northern California. And let me buy you guys some drinks. Let's go out and catch up. So anyways, we head over to the bar throughout the day, my friend and a bunch of others. So I'm buying drinks, we're catching up. And I was one of those type of persons that was just drinking enough that I could still drive under the limit in California. Well, when it was all said and done and the party was done, I jumped in my car and I started heading to my mom's house. And my friend jumped in his car and he was following me home. And sure enough, the next thing I know, I see the lights from the highway patrol just flying. And I told my ex-wife at the time, I said, hey, you know what? There's this police coming, and I don't know, I felt it in my guts that something wasn't right. Well, sure enough, the police officer stopped me, and she pulled me over. And the first thing that she said to me was, we have a report that a navy blue Hummer that you've been at a party and you've been drinking. Now, at that point in time, when the police said that, I already knew it had to be somebody from the party that did that. One of my friends or family members that had called in, because my Hummer, it was a special navy pearl. And at night, it looked jet black. So it was somebody that seen it, obviously, through the day. So the police said, have you been drinking, Mr. Herrera? And I said, yeah, I have. I have been drinking. I had some drinks throughout the day. We came for a party. Well, she had me get off my car, and we did the sobriety test. And even though I have a bad knee from a high school injury, I was able to do the sobriety test, and I passed. Well, the police officer went ahead and says, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and do a breathalyzer just to make sure that you're not beyond that limit. Well, the breathalyzer didn't work. And unfortunately, because I had admitted to drinking, she had no choice but to basically arrest me and take me in. First time I ever went to jail, and it was horrible. Well, the next day, as I got picked up from my mom and my ex-wife, I had this major problem on my hands, a DUI. I was facing it. I had to fight it. I went ahead and hired a very well-known DUI attorney out of Southern California, Darren Kavanoki. And Darren, if you're watching this, thank you. And the first thing he told me was, one, this is your fault. Because if you're going to drink, you shouldn't have jumped on the wheel, regardless if you felt you were under the limit, which I was, but I was still facing those allegations, those charges. And sure enough, when it was all said and done, I lost my license because I was just at that point, right there where I was under the influence, right at that marginal point right there. And I had to go through that nightmare of classes, and for 1 year I was doing that. And my lawyer told me this because I told him, I want to know who did this. I want to know who called in because I feel it's one of my friends that did this to me. And he says to me, I'm going to get you that person's name, and I'm going to get you the file. So if you guys thinking that those anonymous calls are anonymous, they're not. You can actually get them. Just like my lawyer was able to get them. But he told me, hey, but you can't call this guy because he's a witness. Well, I'm embarrassed to say this, but that's exactly what I ended up doing. I called him up, and I called him out. I said, why would he do this to me? And now I was faced with $20-something thousand in legal fees and facing the courts. And at the time, because I was living in Fresno, I was having to come back and forth to Lake County to see the judge. And let me tell you what, guys, it was horrible. And it really pissed me off. And that was in 2008. And I gotta say that for years, I hated this dude. He would avoid me everywhere. And until this moment in time, he hasn't had the balls to at least apologize or at least talk to me about it, which has made my resentment and anger towards him higher. But here's the point. As I'm going into 2020 as a 42-year-old man, and I think of that particular situation, that hurt me. It truly hurt me. It hurt my insurance career because I couldn't go out in the field. I had a driver, so now I had to pay someone to drive me around. It hurt me in front of my friends and family because I got arrested, and that was embarrassing. And it created resentment. And every single time that I would go to those special classes for those DUI ones, it would even piss me off even more because I would share with everybody that my best friend from junior high was the one that called in to get me in trouble. And he accomplished that. But that's one of the ones that had over the years really had me twisted up, But I had a few other scenarios, right, where people that were close to you, to me, did me wrong. And it's easy for us to hold on to that resentment, that anger. But you know what? As I reflected last night over some martinis, and I didn't drive, I realized that dwelling on that stuff doesn't do nothing. Nothing. It just makes you angry. And instead of using that anger, instead of focusing on the anger, I should be focusing it on positive things. For you, maybe it's easy, but I got to admit, for me, it's been one of the hardest things for me to let go. So my New Year's resolution going into 2020 is, for Lewis, if you're watching this, I forgive you, man. I truly do. And I am letting it go. Because dwelling on it isn't going to do me anything. It's just making it worse because it makes me angry. But I'm going to let it go. And just letting it go feels good. And, I encourage that to everybody. If we're going to go into 2020 and do something special, then let's let go of the drama, the anger, and the people that have done you wrong. Those people eventually, they'll have their day. I don't wish it upon them, but they'll have their day. So if you've wronged me, I forgive you. If I've wronged you, I ask for your forgiveness. In 2020, guys, let's go into it with a good heart, with a positive attitude, and instead of creating enemies, let's create friendships. So you guys enjoy your Happy New Year, and once again, if you drink, do not drive. Peace.